Good morning, Mr. Chair. Staff is ready to begin the Technical Advisory Committee meeting. If you could call the meeting to order.
Very good. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the March 25th Technical Advisory Committee, and as has been our past practice, we'll turn it back over to Mr. Parrish to run.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a reminder, as we go through the agenda, we request any committee members wishing to make a comment, ask a question, or make a motion that you say your name for the record. We'll open the floor for questions after presenting each item. Also, after a motion is made and a vote is called for, each committee member will verbally vote. If the vote is unanimous, that will be noted. If there are any nay votes, then a roll call will be completed to accurately identify the vote in the record. This meeting was properly posted and noticed in accordance with Declaration of Emergency Directive 006 issued by Governor Sisolak on March 22nd, 2020, and subsequent directives extending this directive until an end to the emergency is declared. The directives suspend the requirement contained in NRS for a physical location to be provided for a meeting in public bodies. Pursuant to Directive 006, a physical location has not been provided for this meeting. A live stream of the meeting is available at the web address on the notice of public meeting. Also, an email address, publiccomment@regionalflood.org, has been provided in the notice of public meeting to allow the public to participate in this meeting. The email address will be monitored during the meeting should any member of the public wish to participate in the final comment period. Any comments received prior to or during the meeting will be read into the record and will become part of the permanent record. We'll begin with a voice roll call to verify the committee members present. If the committee member is not present, then we'll call the alternate's name for a response. And we'll begin with Chair Steve Ford.
Present.
Vice Chair Travis Anderson.
Present.
Keegan Littrell. And his alternate, Jim Keene.
Present.
Ed McGuire. And his alternate, Tom Davey.
Present.
Dennis Cedarberg.
Present.
John Salvi. And his alternate, Joe Levy.
Present.
Mike Jansen. And his alternate, Jeremy Levitt.
Present.
And Dale Daffer.
Present, Steve.
Thank you, Dale. I'm showing 8 members present. We do have a quorum. Next slide, please. Item 1 is comments by the general public. As noticed on the agenda posting, comments by the general public regarding items on this agenda were to be posted to public comment at regionalflood.org. Jackie, could you verify if we received any public comments?
Mr. Chair, Jackie Ramirez, for the record, there are no public comments.
Thank you, Jackie. Next slide, please. Item 2 is action to approve the agenda with the deletion of any items. Mr. Chair, the agenda is in order for approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Dale Daffer, North Las Vegas, motion to approve item number 2.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Dale Daffer. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 3 is action to approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2021 meeting. Mr. Chair, the minutes are in order for approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Dale Daffer, North Las Vegas, motion to approve the minutes, item number 3.
Thank you, Dale. There's a motion on the floor for approval of item 3. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 4 is action to accept the financial reports. Mr. Chair, the report is in your backup. Happy to answer any questions. I'll point out again that on page 3 of the report is the sales tax receipts thus far through December. The numbers for December, we were down about 2% over what we budgeted. For the year, we're pretty much right on track with what we budgeted. We're at 53.3 million out of the 104.4 million budgeted, which is above the estimate by 0.02%. So we're right on track there. I'm happy to answer any questions. If there are none, staff would recommend you accept the report. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Dale Daffer, North Las Vegas, motion to approve item number 4.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Dale Daffern. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 5 is action to adopt amendments to the 10-year construction program. Mr. Chair, these are amendments to the 10-year construction program for fiscal impacts that occur later in the agenda. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Travis Anderson, City of Mesquite, move to follow staff recommendations, approval of item number 5.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Travis Anderson. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. And that motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 6 is action to accept the amendment to the final accounting report and project closeout for Freeway Channel, Washington, Martin Luther King to Rancho Drive. Mr. Chair, during this project, there was a conflict identified with the utility line that delayed the contractor. As a result, CenturyLink has paid the City of Las Vegas for the cost of the delay, and those funds are being now returned to the district. Since this project's already been closed, this item will amend the final accounting report and project closeout. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Steve Ford, City of Las Vegas, motion to approve.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Steve Ford. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 7 is action to accept the final accounting reports and close out the interlocal contracts for the following projects: Flamingo Wash, McLeod Drive to Maryland Parkway design, Rancho Road System, Elkhorn, Grand Canyon to Wallapai design, Gowan Box Canyon, Lone Mountain Road design, and Centennial Parkway Channel West, CC 215, Pioneer Way to US 95 design. Mr. Chair, these closeouts will return approximately $770,000. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Steve Ford, City of Las Vegas, I'll move to approve item number 7.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval of item number 7 from Steve Ford. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 8 is to receive the quarterly project status reports reporting period November 2020 through January 2021. Mr. Chair, the report's in your backup. Happy to answer any questions if there are any. There's no action required on this item. It's just to receive a report. Any discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none. Next slide, please. Item 9 is discussion and possible action to approve the prioritization of projects 10-year construction program and fiscal year 2021-2022 project list. Mr. Chair, it's that time of year again to begin the process to update the 10-year construction program. Todd Myers on our staff has prepared the draft plan, and it was sent out just before the start of this meeting via email, along with instructions on how to complete the plan. So we'll need each of you to add your prioritized projects onto the plan, and those need to be returned to us by Monday, April 19th, 2021. We'll then complete a review and comment as necessary. And then we'll have an item that will present the plan to for the board for adoption at our June board meeting. Just a quick summary, the estimated new resources over the 10-year period are $788 million, which is about a 14% increase over the 10-year period from last 10 years plan. That does include 3 $100 million bond issues that are programmed in every third year beginning in FY24. Year one resources are estimated to be $185.6 million in the 10-year plan, which includes unencumbered bond funds and pay-as-you-go funds from last year that are carrying over to year one of this plan. There's no action that's required on this item unless anyone has any questions or concerns or comments. We're happy to entertain those now.
Hey, Steve Dale, North Las Vegas. The $100 million bond, it's not set in stone, is it? You guys are gonna wait and see what kind of draw there is first, and then see if you actually need to pull the trigger on that bond?
That's correct. We do that with every bond that's in the out years. We just put that in for programming purposes to kind of give some resources to the 10-year plan to allow you guys to plan for things. But depending on how the economy is and whether there's actually a need, is there projects that are wrapping up construction, we'll make that determination at that time and pull the trigger. So it's just for planning purposes at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, move on to item 10. Next slide, please. Item 10 is action to approve the First Amendment to the consultant contract with Atkins North America, Inc. to extend the completion date to prepare an update to the hydrologic criteria and drainage design manual. Mr. Chair, this project is well underway. It was slowed some due to the closures as a result of the pandemic, but it is really going pretty strong now. I want to say a quick thank you to and appreciate the effort from the staffs from all of the entities that are participating in this effort. There's been great participation in all of the stakeholder meetings, and we're getting really good feedback from all of the entities on the necessary changes to the manual. This item will just extend the date of completion of the contract for this item. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion?
Steve, this is Dennis. Do you have any input from the engineering community on this?
Yes, in fact, we actually hired as subject matter experts 5 different companies that were participated in the RFP but didn't actually win the contract, and so we opened small contracts with them to participate in the process. And then we have just other outside companies as well that are that are providing input. Southern Nevada Home Builders, for example, has got a representative that's been attending. So there's been really good participation. I think our meetings are 35 to 40 people generally as we go through each section of the manual.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other discussion or questions? Entertain a motion.
Dennis Cedarburg, Public Works, Clark County. Move for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Dennis Cedarburg. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide, please. Item 11 is action to approve the request to reallocate funding within the interlocal contracts for construction for the following projects. Item A is Duck Creek Haven Street Storm Drain, Clark County. Item B is Hollywood System Phase 2, Nellis Air Force Base Reach, City of North Las Vegas. Mr. Chair, these are just reallocations of funding within the interlocal contracts. There's no fiscal impacts as a result of these reallocations. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Dennis Cedarburg, Clark County. Move for approval.
Thank you, Dennis. There's a motion on the floor for approval, items 11A and B from Dennis Cedarburg. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide. Thank you. Item 12 is action to approve the supplemental interlocal contracts for design and construction to extend the project completion dates for the following projects. Item A is third supplemental Centennial Parkway Channel West to US 95, Durango to Grand Teton, City of Las Vegas. Item B is the first supplemental local drainage improvements, Looning Drive, Storm Drain, City of Las Vegas. Mr. Chair, these are just extensions of time for these two contracts. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Steve Ford, City of Las Vegas, move to approve 12A and B.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval for items 12A and B from Stephen Ford. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Item 13, next, thank you, is action to approve the interlocal contracts for design for the following projects. Item 13A is Blue Diamond Channel Amigo to Haven, Clark County. And 13B is Las Vegas Wash Branch 2, Monson Channel Jimmy Durante to Boulder Highway, Clark County. These are two new design interlocals requested by Clark County. Staff recommends approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Dennis Cedarburg, Clark County, move for approval, item 13.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Dennis Cedarburg for items 13A and B. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next slide. Thank you. Item 14 is comments by the general public. As noticed on the agenda posting, comments by the general public regarding any item related to the Regional Flood Control District or to be posted to public comment at regionalflood.org. Jackie, could you please verify if we've received any public comments and read those into the records if we did?
Mr. Chair, for the record, Jackie Ramirez, there are no public comments.
Thank you, Jackie. Mr. Chair, that concludes our posted agenda. I just want to remind all the members to remain logged into the meeting if you're going to stay on for the RTC EAC meeting, which should begin in just a few minutes. And Mr. Chair, if you could adjourn the meeting.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Parrish. Appreciate your work. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you for joining the RTC Executive Advisory Committee meeting. Chairwoman Rosenberg, staff is ready for you to begin the meeting.
Thank you. Good morning. Chairwoman Sandra Rosenberg for the record. I'd like to call to order the March 25th, 2021 meeting of the Executive Advisory Committee. RTC staff will begin with a roll call of committee members and introduce staff on the line.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. David Gloria, Management Analyst for the RTC for the record. I'll be calling your name in alphabetical order. Please confirm your attendance as I read your name. Travis Anderson.
Present.
Mario Bermudez.
Present.
Dennis Cedarberg.
Present.
Dale Daffern.
Present.
Susan Danielowicz.
Present.
Tom Davey.
Present.
Joey Paskey.
Present.
Jim Keene.
Present.
Johanna Murphy.
Present.
Andrew Rother.
Present.
Chair Sandra Rosenberg.
Present.
Richard Sechrist.
Present.
Fred Solis.
Present.
Thank you. Please note that we have several RTC staff on the line for today's meeting. This includes Mr. David Swallow, Deputy CEO, Mr. John Penuelas, Senior Director of Engineering, Mr. Andrew Kelman, Acting Director of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Mr. David Clyde, Associate General Counsel, and finally, Mr. Joe Damiani, Manager of Engineering. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Gloria. Mr. Penuelas, for the first item, I'll turn it over to you.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, John Penuelas, Senior Director of Engineering for the record. The first item on the agenda is to conduct your first citizens participation period. But before we do that, I'd like to remind you that on March 22nd, 2020, the state of Nevada Executive Department issued a Declaration of Emergency Directive 006, which suspended the requirement to have a physical location for public meetings. Pursuant to Directive 006 and for the health and safety of the community, this meeting is being held virtually. To allow for public participation, the RTC is accepting public comments via email at publiccomments@rtcsnb.com. Comments can be submitted to be read aloud or to be added directly to the written record. Mr. Gloria will read the public comments received by the RTC.
Thank you. This is the first time set aside for public comment. This time is limited to comments on items included on the agenda. Comments will be limited to the first 500 words, with the remaining words to be included in the written record. Do we have any comments?
Madam Chairwoman, there are no public comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Mr. Penuelas.
Yes, thank you. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. The agenda is in order and ready for your approval.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Dale Daffer, North Las Vegas, motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Thank you. The motion carries. Mr. Penuelas.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The next item is to approve your consent agenda. This consists of items 3 through 28 and can be taken in one motion.
Are there any comments or questions from the committee? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Mario Bermudez with Town Council.
Pursue approved consent agenda.
Did you get that, Mr. Gloria? There were a few.
Yes, I heard Mario Bermudez.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Penuelas.
Yes, that brings us to item 29, Madam Chair.
Okay, item 29 is to approve revisions to the RTC policies and procedures. Do you have some background information?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. John Penuelas again for the record. As the committee will recall, this issue, this idea, probably first surfaced about a year ago when we were going through the formulation and approval of the 2021 capital plan. We would like to, we feel that, our opinion is that this formal change to the policies and procedures to add the deputy CEO of the RTC as a voting member of the board is the right way to go to, formally bring transit into the resource allocation discussion. But we also know that this is a change, and the membership has been set the way it has been, or the way it currently is, for many years. So we wanted the committee's opinion on that thinking, and I'd be happy to or not happy. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it as the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Penuelas. I'm going to start, actually. Again, Sandra Rosenberg, Chairwoman. I believe some of this is coming from a recent FHWA review of the MPO portion of the RTC, and ensuring that the board is appropriately represented for transit, the State Department of Transportation, and local agencies. And so I would certainly support that. You're a unique agency in the makeup and the roles and responsibilities, certainly much more than an MPO. And because the RTC does operate transit, it's sort of an odd, whether or not you need that additional seat or not. It's sort of in the gray area, but I certainly support that voice. As a voting member, I think it's important that as we talk about transportation as a whole, that voice is heard and is part of that conversation. So with that, I would like to hear from the rest of the committee as well, though.
Madam Chair, this is Dennis Cedarberg.
Go ahead, Mr. Cedar.
My opinion is I don't support it. I don't believe it's the role of RTC staff to be on the voting member of the EAC. I believe RTC staff is a very participating agency in the process. Obviously, they provide funding for the project. They make recommendations. They provide information. They propose plans. They're always involved in the discussion. And the EAC has always listened to staff and accepted their reports. As far as the capital improvement program, which was a justification in the backup to the agenda item, I believe that the allocation of resources is actually a budgeting effort, and the EAC doesn't vote on the budget. That's voted on by the commission itself, and it's presented by RTC staff as to how the budget is formulated, the revenues, and how the revenues are allocated to the various operations and capital plans. I believe that the money received from transit actually goes to transit, and if there's an allocation of additional sales tax revenue to transit, it should be part of the budget, and the budget should then allocate those monies to transit, and they don't need to go through the capital improvement program. We do in our capital improvement program on the streets and highways portion. RTC does request money. They requested it for the BRT. They requested it for FAST. They requested it for Nexar. They requested it for asset management without the need for a voting member. So I don't think there's a need for a voting member, and I will not support it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cedarberg. Are there other comments from the committee?
Hey, Sandra, it's Dale Daffern, North Las Vegas. I know we've had a little bit of discussion on this, but it would be hard for me to support it at this time without, getting together with all the other directors and running it up, our senior management chain with our city manager before we made a big change like that. I also have to kind of support Dennis's thought that the the technical committees that feed information to the EAC and the operations subcommittee and things like that aren't really a part of transit. And Dennis is correct that the budget, they don't deal with anything except technical issues on what the directors of public works deal with. So I would have a hard time supporting that at this time. I really need more time to think about a move like that to add one more voting member to the board. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the committee?
This is Dennis Tiedeberg. If there are no other comments, I would move to hold this item to receive more information on the proposal and on how the budget allocation for the revenues is approved.
Madam Chair, John Penuelos again for the record with the RTC. We would be supportive of that. We want to make sure this is the right way to go and we talk it out. So I think we'll hold to the item as appropriate until your next meeting.
Okay, great. Good to hear that. I was going to ask if there were any timeline concerns about that. So thank you for that concurrence on the motion. Any other comments before we take a vote? Okay, so we have a motion, as Mr. Cederberg stated, and that motion is to hold the item. So all those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Thank you. The motion carries and that item will come back. Thank you so much. Mr. Penuelos.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Moving on, item 30 is your final citizens participation. And well, I'll let David see if we have anybody that wants to say anything, and then I'd like to come back.
Okay, thank you. This is the second time set aside for public comment. Just a reminder that comments will be limited to the first 500 words, with the remaining words to be included in the written record. Do we have any comments?
Thank you, David Gloria, again for the record. There are no public comments at this time.
Thank you so much. Mr. Penuelos.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. John Penuelos again. I just thank you, Dale, for bringing up the Operations Subcommittee. I just wanted to relay a message to the committee that Maria Brace with our Transit Operations group addressed both the specifications and the Operations Subcommittee meetings this month. Just to remind everyone on the importance of the condition of approval that is typically on the approved temporary traffic control plans that go through the agencies, that there's a maximum limit of 2 bus stops to be closed consecutively. Obviously, that is not always possible, but when it's not possible, we'd like to, be involved in the discussions on how it could possibly be made to address that issue. It's a real inconvenience for our transit customers when more than 2 stops are closed in a row. In fact, it's an inconvenience when 1 stop is closed. So anyway, just that was brought up at Ops and Specs. So just to give you all a heads up. And that was all I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Joe Damiani with the RTC. I just wanted to remind everyone that the draft capital plan was sent out last week, and project lists and funding allocations are due back to the RTC on April 15th.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the committee? Okay, if there are no additional comments, I will close this item and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.